ora koutou, ko dia ho, haramai, thanks for joining us. We're here today for Waipā District Libraries Author Month, and joining me is crime fiction writer and Cambridge local Nikki Crutchley. Kia ora, Nikki, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Nikki's also a freelance proofreader. She's also worked in libraries in New Zealand and overseas, but she's probably best known for her crime fiction. Her books include Nothing Bad Happens Here, No One Can Hear You, The Murder Club, and her latest release is To the Sea. Now, Nikki, can we start by talking about To the Sea? Yeah. It's obviously your latest book. And it's your first to be traditionally published. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell us how this came about?
So I published self-published three novels, the ones that you just mentioned. But in 2018, when I published No One Can Hear You, end of 2018, I heard from Vicky Marsden from High Spot Literary, and she was wondering if I wanted an agent. And the answer was definitely yes. I'd heard that it was quite hard to get an agent, just as hard to get traditionally published. And that kind of started the journey. So that was end of 2018. And she was actually pitching Nothing Bad Happens Here and the follow-up to that I was writing at the time, The Murder Club. We had a few almosts with offers, but didn't quite get there. And then I was going to start writing the next Miller Hatcher book. That's the journalist that features in both of those books. But because I'd been turned down for the two books, I didn't really think there was a point of starting another Miller book when publishers hadn't taken on those two books. And I did want to be traditionally published. I mean, self-publishing was never really on the cards. It's expensive. And the dream was always to be traditionally published. So I thought I would try and do a standalone. I always wanted to write a psychological thriller, more so probably than the crime ones I'd written, and I thought this would be a good chance. So I wrote To the Sea probably during 2020. Not a lot happened during lockdown, but it came in, I didn't do a lot of writing at all in our first lockdown. But over that year, I wrote To the Sea. And Vicky pitched it to publishers in New Zealand, Australia, UK, US, and within a week she heard back from Harper Collins Australia in Australia and offering me a 2-book contract, which was amazing. Yeah,
fantastic.
Dream come true.
Well, certainly when we were inviting, and we should say we did invite the public to send in questions for Nikki in preparation for this interview, and certainly not a lot of questions, but a lot of comments to say how much they love your writing and lovely. How much they particularly love To the Sea, which is some great feedback already.
Yeah, I must say it's a little bit different from my first three self-published ones, probably quite a lot darker, I think.
Yeah. Can you tell us, where did the inspiration for Anna, the main character, come from?
So I guess when I got the idea for To the Sea, which wasn't really much of an idea, I kind of just wanted to explore home and the meaning of home and the idea of people thinking of the beach as their happy place. I'm one of those people, but I was writing a psychological thriller, so I wanted it to be creepy and dark. So I kind of turned that on its head. So I had that kind of spark of an idea, and the two characters that came to mind straight away, not really their personalities or anything, but I knew I wanted a young woman who was Anna, who's 18 years old, and I wanted a patriarch, and that's Hurley, her grandfather. She's not really inspired by anyone, but I think I developed her over quite a long time, and she evolves quite a lot as a character as we go through the book. So she starts off quite naive and trusting of her family, and not so trusting of people outside their little pine plantation where they live. But as the book goes on and she discovers secrets that they've been hiding, she gets a bit stronger. And at the end, I think she's quite a different person. But that kind of character comes as you're writing that first draft. It never a completely whole character turns up which would be nice, but it doesn't happen.
Now, you've spoken about it being a standalone, but a question from Catherine is that are you able to move on to new writing and away from the characters that you've already written about with subsequent books, or do they somehow remain with you?
Yeah, with my first 3 self-published ones, I don't remember having a problem moving away. But with To the Sea, I had a real problem moving away, and Hurley was the one that stuck with me, and he's one of the main characters. He's the grandfather, by far the darkest character I've ever written. And I guess it was because a lot of work was put into To the Sea, obviously my self-published ones as well, but when you're traditionally published, there's just a lot more effort goes in with the resources you're given from the publishing company. So I wrote probably 4 or 5 drafts, and then my agent Vicky saw it, and we worked together on it over the ending. So the month of November in 2020, I think I rewrote the ending 3 times. And when I say the ending, it wasn't a couple of chapters. Like when you change the ending, you're kind of going back 20 or 30,000 words. So I was really deep into it, I felt. And then the editor sees it, there's a structural edit and there's a copy editor, and they're constantly asking you questions about the plot and the characters and their motivations. And I just feel, yeah, everything was a lot deeper than my other books. And then when I kind of sat down to write my second contracted book, I kind of felt like I had to shake it off a bit. I think I probably felt I needed a bit more time in between writing. Maybe I started writing the next book a bit quick, but it was Hurley that stayed with me. And all my books have, I don't want to say the baddie, but you know, a not very nice person, or a couple of them. And I was kind of getting Hurley's character not mixed up with, but yeah, he was definitely in my head. So they do stay with me. And I do think of Miller quite often from my 2 books, Nothing Bad Happens Here in the Murder Club. But she's just more like a friend, and I wonder what she's up to.
Well, speaking of Miller, and I did love the Murder Club, which was shortlisted for a Ngaio Marsh Award. Can you tell us the difference that makes to your book marketing and promotion to have an award or a shortlisting behind you?
I think being self-published, anything like that is huge. It seems doubly huge when you're self-published because, I mean, writing is a very, very solitary thing, but I think even self-publishing is more solitary. You don't have that big publisher behind you. So anything to do with promotion or anything like that, publicity, anything is helpful. So when I was shortlisted for the Ngaios for that book, it just means that more people hear about your book. I mean, like libraries, we do the mystery in the library and people hear about you. And social media is huge, and Craig Sisterson and the Ngaio Marsh Awards, they're so good at publicising everyone that enters, really. But yeah, whenever you're shortlisted for an award, it's nothing but good. Yeah, can come of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we going to see Miller again?
Not anytime soon, but I would never say never. Just because I'm contracted with Harper Collins at the moment, so I've just written that second contracted book, and I'm working on another one. And I just remember when I started writing To the Sea, before that, I had plans to write the third Miller Hatcher novel. So I've got the idea there, and she's just waiting for me to come back. So, but yeah, I can do that at some stage, I guess, but no plans at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, so another possibly follow-up question from Catherine. Can you first tell us, when you first get the spark of an idea for a book and the process that goes into it, and carrying on from that, how do you begin working on it? Do you plan it out? And does the plot come first or the character? And something that I learned this week was plotters and pantsers.
Yeah.
So I guess we're keen to know which one you are.
Yeah, so I'm going to be difficult and say I'm probably in the middle. I always thought I was a planner, but when I listened to what planners actually did, I was like, oh no, I'm not quite that serious. I don't have whiteboards or post-it notes or anything like that. And but when the spark comes, for most of for To the Sea, and the one I've just written, and then the one I'm working on now, they've all been quite similar, as in I've got the idea, and when I say idea, it's really just one little thing. It might be a character, it might be a crime, a setting even, and I don't start writing straight away at all. Like, I would, if I could do my timeline, I would like to wait 3 or 4 months before I actually start writing. So when I got, so the book I'm writing now, I got the idea in September, and I was still writing this second contracted book for Harper Collins, which isn't really ideal because you're in the middle of writing a book and then another idea comes up. So I try not to pay too much attention to it, but I write notes on my phone. So I get most of my really good ideas when I'm away from my laptop. So I send myself emails. So I write little notes. And by the time I came to work on this book I'm working on now, there was 4 months worth of notes. So there was about 30,000 words, which is huge. But if I scrolled all the way down, it was a different book I was thinking of. So I go through and kind of delete, but I just write everything down because I'm scared I'm going to forget it. So it's not really this happens, and then this happens, and then the ending. It's more like little snatches of dialogue from characters, character names, character occupations, the crime and how it happens, because there's always a crime, certain scenes that I want to show. So when I start the book, I always spend a lot of time on the first chapter or prologue. I can't just dive in. Lots of writers just sit down and I can't do that. So I spend quite a lot of time on that first chapter. And then as I go, I probably plan as I go is the best way to, so when I've finished a chapter, I kind of know the next 2 or 3 chapters that are going to happen. And I always have some idea of the ending. But in saying that, like To the Sea was changed 3 times. And so nothing's set in stone. But for me, for my stress levels, I just like knowing where I'm headed. And some authors don't like that, and they like the excitement of sitting down and just writing and seeing where that takes them. But that's a lot of pressure for me. I'd rather have a clearer idea of where I'm heading.
Yeah. Okay, so what does a day in the life of Nikki Crutchley look like?
It's always a little bit different, but in saying that, the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, I kind of wanted to get a routine going because I'm terrible at writing every day. And they always tell you, like, advice for writers, you should be writing every day. But I've published 4 books and I've managed. But it's nice to have a routine, and it's nice when you're writing a first draft, when you're writing every day, 5 days a week. You keep your head in the story. Sometimes with To the Sea, I mean, lockdown, I didn't write at all. So that 6 weeks went by. If work gets busy, I might not look at my manuscript for 2 or 3 months even. So if I can give you the last 2 weeks where I've had some kind of routine, I get up in the morning. I've got 2 girls, so I send them off to school. I normally try and get a little bit of exercise in. So I either walk or go to our local pools, swimming laps. And I normally try and sit down by 9:30, 10 o'clock. And so I'm a freelance proofreader. Writing doesn't quite pay the bills yet, but we'll see. Freelance proofreading. So I proofread Nourish magazine, which is a Bay of Plenty Waikato magazine, and I proofread for University of Waikato Education Department, and I proofread manuscripts and theses and anything and everything. So the last couple of weeks I've been doing that, and then I go and pick up my daughter at 3 o'clock, and then my daughter comes home from high school, my oldest one. So by about 3:45, 4 o'clock, I've been writing. So I try and write till 5:30, depending on who's cooking dinner and things like that. And I try and get an hour and a half in, and that's my day. And if I don't have as much proofreading work on, I'll start writing. Yeah, but I'm a really bad procrastinator, so it's been really good actually the last couple of weeks sitting down to write. Yeah.
Are there any additional pressures from, now that you've you're traditionally published. Does that bring any more pressure for deadlines, etc.?
It brings so much more pressure, and I can say 100%. It's all on me. Like, my publishers are amazing, but I think it just seems a lot bigger to be traditionally published, and it probably just feels like you're working for someone. It's not just me anymore putting out my books. And I want it to do well. I want To the Sea to do well, and my other books for me, but also for my publisher. So there's a lot of self-doubt that I thought might go away by being traditionally published, but it doesn't, it turns out. And there's just fresh self-doubt starting a new book. So pressurise, really, that's just all on me. And I want to say it might get better, but I'm not sure if it will.
Maybe if we're talking a few years down the track, you'll be, yeah, awesome.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Now, you've touched on this a little bit. Can you give us a bit more of a sneak peek as to what you're working on? It sounds like you've finished the next book, but we probably can't tell us what a title is.
No.
No.
So
we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah. So I've finished the second contracted book. So my publisher has it at the moment, and I haven't heard from her, so I can't really say much. It's quite an anxious time waiting to hear if they like it. And so no, I can't really tell you anything. Just generally, it's set in an old family hotel, disused family hotel. It's actually based on the Waitomo Hotel, just south of Otorohanga, where I grew up. Great setting, I think, kind of gothic-y and dark. And it's just, it's got another dual timeline, which To the Sea has. So there's present chapters and past chapters. Yeah. And it's, told, there's two lots of sisters, one in the past and one in the present. Yeah.
Great.
Leave it at that.
and the book that you're currently working on, is that in any way related to the last two?
No. And this one isn't even contracted yet. I just had an idea and was very excited about it, and I'm kind of always writing, so I thought I'd start. So hopefully that will get picked up at some stage, but it's in the very early stages. I'm kind of a third of the way through a first draft, which is always quite a nice time because it's all mine. No one has anything to do with it, so I can just do what I want and see how I go, and all that other stuff comes later.
Okay. Wow, fantastic. Well, look, Nikki, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the next book.
Thank you.
The one that you're currently working on, and we look forward to seeing you in our libraries.
Great. Thank you, Dee.
You're welcome. Thank you.